Wheels keep spinning, wheels keep
And we're back.
spinning, wheels keep spinning to the moonlight.
Because the wheels keep turning, baby. We live, Harry. I could go.
We're
The
live in the
wheels
living
keep
color.
turning. The wheels keep turning. The wheels keep turning. Welcome back to the second hour of LoveBabz, Love Talk. My guest Henry Fernandez is hanging out in our hostage room.
He's no longer there.
Oh, he'll be back. Well, you know what? While he's coming back on, because he'll come back. I know. He probably tuned in too early. So let me tell you a little bit about Henry so that when he comes on, I could just straight start talking to him. So, Henry is Leap's executive director. He co-founded Leap in 1992 and served as the executive director from its founding until 1997, returning to the position almost 2 decades later. He came to New Haven in 1990 to go to Yale Law School, following a short stint teaching high school English and math in Zimbabwe. He served for 5 years as the economic development administrator for the city of New Haven. And I'm going to hold him responsible for all these damn no turn on red signs all over this city. I'm going to put that at his doorstep. As a deputy mayor in our city. He has been a senior fellow at a think tank in D.C., has testified as an expert before Congress. He served on President Obama's transition team. Aside from his work at Leap, he owns a firm that completes quantitative and qualitative research on issues including health policy, civil rights, elections, criminal justice, and civic engagement. He has been interviewed by media. He's been on MSNBC, the New York Times, USA Today, NBC News, the BBC, Black Enterprise, and the Washington Post. He grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York. He scuba dives and spends time with his family for fun. Leap is important to him because he gets to see new generations of young people take on the fight to make our city more just. And if that's not enough, he's married to the very beautiful and hella talented Kika Matos, who has a show on WNHH radio, Kika's Corner. And she is, and you can see her out there stomping the streets for immigration rights and immigration support, all things immigration. So if that's not enough, he married well too. So I have not had a chance to talk to him in a very long time. Hey, brother Henry Fernandez. It is. You have to unmute yourself.
Babz, how are you?
It is lovely to see you.
Pretty much everybody just knows me as the guy who married well. So I hear.
Listen, you could have been the guy who did marry well, and you did. So that's a blessing. How are you, my friend?
Good. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you.
The one thing about COVID is there's people you just would run into with some regularity. And for 2 years, you just don't run into people anymore.
I know. It's just like everybody just.
You have to have a plan and be on Zoom and be going to a meeting or something like that, or be on your radio show to see folks. You forget about that. How the hundreds of people that you see, in your life, and now you kind of see only those people that you plan to see. So
I know. How you doing? You doing
good.
All right?
Good. Yeah, we're all doing good. Little Henry's good. And
how old is little Henry? Please shock my system.
Yeah, he's 16.
Oh.
So he's going on a high school ski trip in New Haven. He goes to Easham's New Haven High School, and they got a ski trip this afternoon. So this is his first ski trip, which is not a lot of skiing out of the folks of Fairhaven. So we're
well, he'll come back and he'll get everybody skiing in Fairhaven. So,
yeah, absolutely. How are you doing?
I can't complain. I love this little radio gig. It's fun. Yeah. I was one of those kids in school that they'd send a note home to my mother. She talks a lot. Now
it's a gig. That's right.
So this suits me just fine. And still running the inner city newspaper. The paper still comes out every once a week, and people are still picking it up. And so I'm I can't complain. My kids are all grown, Henry. They're all out the door and grown up, and I'm grateful. So
well, we started a little later, so I think that
I was neck and neck with you, although my youngest is 19. So
Okay.
a little bit ahead of you, but my youngest is 19. So Leap. Oh my God. Do you know, Henry, I have never gone to a Leap dinner. So talk to me about the Leap dinner,
Yeah,
the Leap
absolutely.
year.
Leap year event. Yeah. So, this is our primary fundraiser. And over the years, it's developed quite the reputation, and folks know it all over the city and in the suburbs of New Haven. People come in special for it. And so it'll actually raise over $300,000 this year.
Whoa.
It's really important to us at Leap, but it's really become a community institution, and we're so excited by how much the community supports us. But it's a unique fundraiser and a unique event because it's not like one big chicken dinner. Instead, we have community members who have dinners all around the city and in the close-in suburbs. And what we do is we identify, a really interesting guest of honor who will be at these hosts' home, and then people sign up for the different dinners, and they can, have a great dinner and then talk to hear from the guest of honor, who might be a scholar or an artist or a community activist, a politician, and they can hear from them and they can engage in dialogue. And we've been doing this for, about 25 years now.
Yes.
And it has really become an institution. It went from something that was kind of a small fundraiser for us to really our largest fundraiser. And that's because so many people have embraced it. What's different is the last 2 years have been really different. We were very fortunate. We had a dinner right before the beginning of COVID. COVID hit like 2 weeks after our dinner, going back to 2 years ago now. And then last year, for the first time ever, because so much of this has always been being close to people and talking to people, we couldn't do it in person. So we did it virtually. And this year, we're giving, that's the first time we'd ever done that. It was all new. We're trying to figure it out, like all of us, try to figure things out. This year, we're doing a mix. We're going to have the reception in virtually, and then we're going to follow that up with dinners. And you can choose either between an in-person dinner or a virtual dinner.
Wow. I was looking, I went online to look to see what the offerings were, the list of talks, like who would I want to see? I'm wild for Colleen Shattuck and Joanne Goldblum. I'm wild for them because they're so smart, and I had them on the show. I love their book. But you've got quite a few sold out. Like, I was just like, man, it's quite a few of them are sold out.
It's a big event. It sells out, and thank goodness it sells out. That's how
yes,
is the money. But we still do. We have just a couple of seats left for Joanne Goldblum and Colleen Shattuck's dinner. So please, that would be a great one to go to. The wonderful Andrew Rubinoff. We're calling it Life is a Cabaret, but
I like that one too.
He'll play piano, and you could go to that, and then another one that's good. It still has a couple of seats left. Jacob Padron from the
Long Wharf Theater.
Long Wharf Theater, absolutely, the artistic director. And boy, I just went to a play there. The shows that he's been bringing have been just wonderful and really reflect the diversity of the community. And so he'll be talking about that with Murray Biggs. And so there's a good number of dinners that still have just a few seats left, and we're really strongly encouraging people to go online at leapforkids.org/LYE for Leap Year event. So leapforkids.org/LYE. And you can purchase tickets and go to the dinner if or if you just want to go to the reception, you can do that too. Or if you just want to make a donation, you can make a donation.
That's right.
A lot of folks will say, I'm going to be out of town, but I'll make a donation. And so we appreciate that. It really is an amazing event. And it's possible because so many people volunteer. Because remember, all of these people who are speaking as guests of honor, they're all volunteers. The people who are hosting a dinner at their home, they're all volunteers. Our donors, obviously, are all volunteers. We have some donors who are giving $500. We have donors that are giving significantly more. Really, just local people and local businesses. So what we call our top sponsor, our hero sponsor, for a number of years now has been Noble Wealth Advisors at Janney Montgomery Scott, but also the George Ellis Company, Roz and Jerry Meyer, Stacy and Perkins with Unicore Packaging Group, and Roger Ibbotson. They're all kind of our next tier of what we call leader sponsors, and none of this would be possible without them. It's really the combination of ticket sales and sponsorships that allows us to raise so much money in this community.
So LEAP has become institutionalized in the greater New Haven community, in New Haven. And now y'all are taking on being in the Q House, which I didn't see that coming. I love it. I didn't see it coming. So when they call you and say, you know what, we'd like you to do this, did you say, I don't know, what are the logistics? How are we going to do this?
Well, that's something we're really excited about, really proud of, and happy to work hand in hand with the city of New Haven and with the Q House Advisory Board, who's really been driving this process forward. A wonderful group of community members who've led this effort over the years, and so we were honored to be asked. But it came from LEAP's perspective, or LEAP side. It came from really the last couple of years. Our board and our staff, did a lot of soul searching after the kind of fight for racial justice following the killing of George Floyd, and as well work that we were doing around COVID, what we're seeing with regard to mental health needs of children. And so we felt like, I'll be honest, a lot of LEAP's success has come from the fact that LEAP has operated historically really in kind of a silo. We have a unique model where we have a lot of young people who work for us, and a lot of children who are in our programs. And that's different. And because it's different, not everybody, not all the folks around the city understand it. And so we've really said, okay, well, we're going to do this. We're going to work with these young people. We're going to work with these children. We're going to develop these high school students, these college students as leaders. And that's really been like in a silo. And it's allowed us to grow. It's allowed us to develop resources. It's allowed us to take on new projects. But it's meant that we haven't been necessarily as connected out in the community. We haven't brought all of the skills or grown as much as we could have in New Haven. And after kind of 2 years of just kind of really seeing what's going on in the world, we felt like we had to spread our wings. We had to try to do more. We had to be more of a resource to the community. We had to try to find ways to serve more children. We had to find ways to be more connected to other community organizations. And the Q House, when that was presented as an opportunity, we responded formally to an RFP. But when that was presented as an opportunity, it really fit with where we were in our strategic planning. It fit with our concerns about the community. It fit with where we thought we brought a lot of skills to it. But it also gave us a way to share what we had learned and to be more open and less in a silo. So candidly, it's a big change for us, but we're very excited about it. We've been really happy with the results. The building is beautiful. The community support has been wonderful. And we're proud of just the history of the Q House and our small part in it.
So you must now be seeing young people, those first young people that started with LEAP coming back now as folks in their own careers. I mean, 20 some odd years. I mean, so what is that like? Talk a little bit about, like, what's that feel like to sort of see grown-up people that came through your doors when they were little people?
Well, it is striking, right? I mean, and it's 30 years almost now. I guess 30 years.
My gosh.
Yeah, and so that means that some of the folks that you're not just like, oh, this is a wonderful young adult. These folks aren't that young anymore either, right? So, and I mean, it's pretty striking. They're Joe Johnson, who's the principal at King Robinson School, was a young person in LEAP. The current Attorney General of California was a young person in LEAP. The mayor of Lincoln, Nebraska. We have New Haven police officers, firefighters. When we first started at the Q House, we've developed a partnership, or after-school partnership with Wexler Grant School, which is our right next door neighbor. We share a plaza. And so the principal there wanted to bring over his faculty, his teachers, to see the building and have their faculty meeting. And several of them, when they came over, said, "Oh my gosh, I was a kid in LEAP, or I was a counselor in LEAP." And so I think, we're talking tens of thousands of people who've gone through LEAP, and thousands who've learned to swim at LEAP, and tens of thousands of kids and young adults and teenagers who've been through LEAP. And so it really affects every aspect of New Haven.
I love it. I mean, do you think the longevity is a testament to the model itself? I mean, you didn't mess with it. You kept the model.
Yeah.
I
do. I mean, I think obviously we, like anybody, we tweak things. I remember when we used to give our staff our counselors beepers. We don't do that. They all carry their own.
Oh my God, you dated yourself.
Yeah, I mean, this is I had no gray hair when I started in this work, right? And so and now it's mostly gray, I think. So things have changed. We do a lot with technology that we didn't used to do, but the basic model of local New Haven public high school students and local college students working with small groups of children, that is that's at the core of what we do. That relationship, the building of the skills to be able to provide that role in children's lives among our young, largely African American and Latino staff of college and high school students. That set of relationships is at the core of what we do, and I think it's allowed us to be successful for 3 decades.
So let me change. Let's switch gears just a little bit, because
sure.
I got to ask you about political life. Do you miss it? Do you miss it? Do you miss being in the middle of all things politics and policy?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I also went through a bit of a transition over the last 2 years. I mean, I gave up. I held a senior fellow position. I guess I'm still a senior fellow, but I'm no longer paid as a senior fellow in Washington, D.C. And I had a pretty significant Washington, D.C. life. But I also looked at what was going on in the country, and particularly in in New Haven, and particularly around issues of race nationally, and felt like I could choose to continue to do the work I was doing nationally, and there's still some things I do, but much smaller, or I could try to give back here. And so I decided that I would do more at LEAP. We would take on this Q House project, that there were skills that I felt I could bring, and there was no better place to bring them than New Haven, given what was going on in the country. So I guess my answer would be that, no, I don't miss the politics, but I think all of us, we've had to look at who we are and what we're doing over the last couple of years. Who's important to us. Most of us have lost friends. I think of someone like Danny Newell, and who was really influential in my life, and a good friend and a good guy, who passed away because of COVID. And we had a board member who was older who passed away with COVID as well, Louise Endel. And it makes you think about what's how fragile the binds that hold community together are. And so there's different ways to help reinforce those binds. Some of that is political. I still believe that elected officials and politicians make a difference. Good ones make a difference. Bad ones make a difference too, but in a different direction. But for me, I felt like the right role for me was to take on these things that are not so political. I guess they have political implications, but I'm not choosing sides in local elections or things like that. And instead, I'm really focused on how can I help make LEAP as strong as possible. How can I help get the Q House really back to its historic important role in the African American community and in New Haven more broadly, and how can I support the development of young people, young leaders, both obviously the children and teens and college students that we work with, but also our full-time staff. Because I'm getting older, and so there's a real need for other folks to take over at LEAP, but also to play other kinds of leadership roles. We need more principals, more police officers, more leaders, more elected officials, more shop owners, and LEAP is a great venue to do that. And so this is, the place Kika and I call home, and so obviously both of us, in our own ways, really try to make a difference here.
So you say that to say that you're going to make a run for something?
No, just the answer. Right, that was a long answer, right? Sorry.
No.
It's because we haven't seen each other for so long, right? That
I'm cutting to the chase. I'm like, all right, is he gonna run for something? Like, you could be
the
anything
answer is
you want.
no.
You could be governor. You could be governor. You could be anything. I mean, you have the skill set.
I made a promise to my board at LEAP, and I made a promise to the advisory board at the Q House that, this is where I'm, this is the work that I'm committed to. This is where I'm going to be in the coming years, and I'm excited about that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what do you hope for LEAP to do? I mean, is it? I'm sure there's other cities and towns that are like, you know what, we need a LEAP. We need a LEAP in Bridgeport, in New London, and Hartford. I mean, do you get those calls, and do you entertain any of that?
We do. We get those calls. We also get calls from around the country, and we try to be helpful in terms of providing advice, that sort of thing. But we at one point did have LEAP programs in New London and in Bridgeport and Waterbury, Hartford, largely funded by the state. And when the state cut back that funding, LEAP departed those cities. That was after, you may recall, I was at LEAP for about 7 years at its very beginning. I went off and did other things, and I've been back for about 6 years now. And so there's a big chunk of time in between there. And during that time, LEAP really shrank in size. And so when I came back, the board really asked, the board's strategy was to grow and asked me to kind of take it through that process of growth, but that growth would be here in New Haven. And so we've grown from about a $1.7 million budget when I returned, about 6 years ago, to it'll be about a $4.5 million budget this year. Wow. And we've gone from being in a few neighborhoods to I think now we're in 8. We have 8 locations. We have the community center at Jefferson Street. We manage the Q House. We have 6 public school locations that we partner with the New Haven Public Schools on as well, where we run after school programs, summer camps. So we've just, in addition to taking on the role at the Q House, in January, we opened a new site in the Quinnipiac Meadows neighborhood, so kind of exit 8 in partnership with the public schools there. So we're looking to grow. We're looking to grow our program for young children. We're looking to grow the number of young people who work for us. This summer, we'll have about 150 young people on staff, as counselors and junior counselors. So that will make us, the largest employer of young people in the city as well. So
wow, I don't think people know that part.
Yeah,
I don't think people know that part.
It's an important aspect for us. The jobs for young people is, we're often high school students' first job, and that's really important to us. We take it really seriously. We have a great team that recruits young college and high school students, and we have a great team that does the curriculum and training for those young people as well. So they can. So how did y'all manage the last 2 summers with the pandemic? Did you run programs? We did. We ran programs. The first summer we ran, well, both summers we pushed a lot of our program outdoors. So
Okay.
that was a big help. In the first summer, obviously there was no vaccine, so we tested everyone weekly. We built a great partnership with Fairhaven Community Health, where what we in the neighborhood call Fairhaven Clinic. Where they came to LEAP and tested all of our staff every week. All of the young people who are working for us, all of our full-time staff, got tested. But we operated outside. We provided masks for everyone, but we also served about half as many kids. This past summer, and we ran for fewer weeks. This past summer, we added another week in there. We went back to our normal number of kids, but we still operated primarily outdoors, and we weren't doing all the field trips and the overnight camping. So we're trying to figure out, we spent a lot of time looking at the numbers and looking at the case counts, and we try to figure out what's safe to do. We own probably 10,000 masks at this point, right? So we're always, we probably have one of the largest supplies of like children's masks, right? So we have lots of little masks. But that's been an important part for us too, right? Is making sure that everyone can be safe so we can stay open. We did try to run program virtually at different points when the early stage of the virus, and then when we saw really big upticks. But we've been in person, since September, and we've been able to do that, using a variety of different strategies and CDC guidelines, and we've brought in a number of doctors from Yale New Haven Hospital who are experts to talk to us, but also we've made that available for all the youth agencies in town, and we've convened them, all the agencies, a number of times on Zoom calls so that they can hear from experts whenever there's a big uptick or when the PPP program came out, so that folks could apply for those funds, that sort of thing. We tried to bring everybody together because, that whole group of youth agencies is so important to our children.
So when will you know, or how do you measure your own personal success? How do you do that? Like, how do you know to pick a new thing to that will challenge you? How does Henry say, I think I'm successful here, I feel like I was successful over there? How do you measure that? How do you define that?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that for me, I've never really had a clearly defined trajectory. I didn't kind of do something so I could do something else. I've always tried to just go where I thought I could be useful and where I'd be excited. I'm not necessarily the kind of person who finds it easy to get up out of bed every morning. So I have to be doing things that I care about. I have to do things that are interesting and challenging and that push me. It's probably why I'm married to my wife. She's beautiful, interesting, challenging, and pushes me. I think that, so for me, I always want to be kind of around people who are making me better. I want to be taking on projects that I care about. And I'm not someone who's generally jumped from thing to thing. I was in city government for 6 or 7 years. I was at the Center for American Progress for more than a decade. I was at LEAP my first time around about 7 years. So I know that there's kind of a new approach in kind of work where people jump from job to job, but I like to try to bring things to a place where where they actually come to fruition, and you can see the change and see the difference. When I was at the city, this will get finally to answer your question. When I was at the city, I chose to leave when there were a set of projects that were, I think, really exciting, but they would get done whether I was there or not. So, I was fortunate enough to spearhead the city's efforts to bring Gateway Community College downtown. Once we got the land approved by the Board of Alders and got all the money in place from the state of Connecticut, got a vote from from the legislature and from the board, State Board of Education. Once all that occurred, it was at that point where I said, I'm no longer needed. There's other wonderful folks who will bring this to fruition over the next, 4 years or so. But I don't need to be here for 4 years for this to get done. And I think that's maybe your answer there, Babz, is like, I try to be there when me being there makes a big difference. And then I try to know when it's time to go as well. And both because other people might be the right folks to take us to the next place, but also because, I need the things that energize me to help me get up in the morning and care about the work and all that. So it's a little bit of just kind of my own personality and understanding that. And then it's a bit about trying to get out of the way so other people can lead. And finally, it's, there are things that I care very deeply about, and I want to be sure that those are the things that I'm doing. I'm not getting younger, but even when I was young, I wanted to be in the places where I felt like the combination of my skills and the opportunities that were in front of me were, made me relevant and useful.
You were in city government at a very exciting time. I think one of the most exciting times. Do you armchair quarterback now? Do you like, I wouldn't do that.
Well,
or that's a good call. Or
yeah.
I wouldn't take that person.
I do, but I keep my mouth shut, right? I keep my mouth shut, but I'm also like, I'm a voter and a citizen in this country and in this state and in this city. And so, I also look at all these things, as a taxpayer and as a citizen and as somebody who cares. And so I think probably even if I hadn't been in city government, I'd have opinions, and I'd probably then be more likely to share them and be running around saying like what I think people should do.
Is there a memoir in you?
Gosh, I don't think anybody would read it. So it'd just be for my own personal gratification. Writing's too hard.
I don't believe that.
I
don't believe that one bit. But have you considered it? You think about it?
I never have. I've written a lot over the years. When I was at the think tank in DC, I wrote dozens and dozens of articles, and for lots of different venues. So there's a part of me that enjoys writing, but I think somebody would have to want to read it. So, but I haven't thought about writing about my own life. I mean, I just did this deal between Yale and the city, and where now Yale's giving the city a lot more money, and I got the opportunity to negotiate that, and I guess what is it, about $24 million a year now, which is far beyond anything that any other university does. And people can argue about whether they should do more or not, but they're now doing more than any other university. And what struck me was that in so many of those conversations, what we were talking about was the history of the city and the history of the relationship between the university and the city. And, how many people have made such a difference here. And just reminding everyone at the table, whether they're with the city or with Yale, that those people come from both the university and from the city. And that we have a great university here, but it's only great as long as the city is great. We have a great city, which benefits when the university is at its best. And that's a real mutual experience. And I say that in the memoir context because that's a place that probably generates a lot of memoirs, but there haven't been a lot of memoirs, or any that I know of. I'm sure there's some out there that really talk about that relationship between the university and the city. So hopefully one of these presidents or one of these mayors will write that story.
Well, I think we're electing you to write the story. I'm waiting.
Well, was there only one person voting you? Was it
I'm
you,
not-
Babz?
No, I think listen, when I get off air, I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be a good bunch of people gonna like, you think Henry's gonna write a book? Ooh, Henry's writing a book. I guarantee you.
Right, and then I'll be at like Stop and Shop, and people will be like, "I'm waiting on your book because I need something to hold the door open." Right? Yeah.
I think you should consider it because I think you have a compelling story. I think you have I've heard bits and pieces of your life story throughout knowing you, and I think if you put it all together, I think it would be quite compelling. And it is a true American story. I think you ought to tell it. But that's just me. I'm your friend.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I think you should. And you know what? Here's the thing. We don't tell our stories. You have a son who probably doesn't know your history, doesn't know where you come from and your people, your mother, all of that story. I think you should consider it.
No, that's an interesting idea. I mean, I've just started kind of doing some genealogy work as my father gets older, and and it turns out there's a little town. There's a couple little towns in Louisiana where his side of the family is from. My family's all from the Deep South. From his family from Louisiana and Tennessee, and my mother's family from Arkansas, and we're actually able to locate, on Google Maps, a little street of maybe 5 houses called I think it's Fernandez Lane, and like everybody on the street in this town of Donaldsonville, I think it is named Fernandez. It is interesting, right? So at some point I've got to go, and it's right off the Mississippi River. My family were slaves there, and my ancestors, and it's right off the Mississippi River, and and there are black folks there named Fernandez, and there are white folks there named Fernandez, and just kind of pulling apart that history would be extremely interesting. So at some point, I've got to, maybe post-COVID, whatever that even means, I got to get down there and at least go to Fernandez Lane.
Yes, because you got to do research for that memoir. Just saying, got to do it. You got to do it. And so before I let you go, I remember when we were younger people, and you and Kiko used to have the most amazing Halloween parties.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
The best Halloween parties in the city.
Yeah, and they got quite big, and that is when we're getting old, because we're like, Halloween, like, I guess we should get some candy and give it out and that kind of thing. But yeah, and it was always amazing to see like so many different kinds of people, because we've been fortunate in that our lives intersect with people in really every neighborhood of the city and every racial and ethnic background, and folks who are contributing to the city in so many different ways, whether they're artists or they're politicians, or they're community leaders or neighborhood activists, or just friends from the block. So, all of that kind of, everybody would dress up in
really dress costumes. Up.
Yeah, so maybe we've got to bring that back. Maybe that'll be one of our post-COVID, events, is to bring back the Halloween party, especially as, Henry's older. He could bring some of his friends, or maybe he'll be off to college, and we'd bring it back. And maybe we wouldn't go to 2 a.m. We'd end it around 11, and everybody could go home and go to bed.
Oh my, how the times have changed.
Absolutely.
Yes, those were some great parties. I appreciate you coming on this morning. I am in awe of the thing that you're doing over with LEAP. I love that LEAP is so much part of our landscape, and has turned out some of the finest people, young people who have had opportunity to work anywhere. So that is a remarkable thing, and you ought to be quite proud of that.
Well, thank you. I am proud of LEAP. It means a lot to hear you say that. I have such respect for you, and I think it's your voice in the community has just been rock solid for forever. And I think the radio show and Inner City News and all of that is this is what makes New Haven great. There are so many people who care, and and share our stories, and that's how we all get to. That's why New Haven's different than what we're seeing in so much of the country with all this division. We can disagree. We can disagree about the direction of policing. We can disagree about the direction of the university. We can disagree on so many really important issues, but then we can all go to a Halloween party and be happy to see each other, right? And that's like, we're still a community. Our community has not unraveled, and I think it's really important that the work that you do to hold the community together. It's champions like you that make New Haven possible.
Well, you are kind to say. From one champion to another, you are kind to say. Thank you so much, Henry. It is a joy. And, let's get together like offline so we can really chop it up.
That sounds great. I look forward to it.
Say hi to everybody at your house.
You do the same, and just really appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Have a good one. I'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right, Harry, let's go. We're playing us out, and I'm on my way to Dominica. I will be back in a week. Y'all be good. Paul Bass will be sitting in for me. God knows him and Harry. I don't know what the hell they're going to do. But just tune in as best you can. And I'll see y'all. This bell is for Armin Aubrey. This bell is for Armin Aubrey. This bell is for Fernando Castillo. This bell is for Fernando Castillo. This bell is for Michael Brown. This bell is for Michael Brown. This bell is for Tamar Ryan. This bell is for Tamar Ryan. This bell is for Vincent Ramos. This bell is for Vincent Ramos. This bell is for Melissa Ventura. This bell is for Melissa Ventura. Trayvon Martin and all the others. This bell is for all the others.
no force more powerful than our people. As we rise to greatness, to some we're lethal. Melanin of blacks, browns, yellows, and reds. Beautiful hair, kinky, curly, straight, and dreads. Been tricked, robbed, and fed so many lies. It's time to unite, not compromise. Our families destroyed by death, despair, and hate. We're strong, we got faith, it's not too late. We will expose the ugly, corrupt system aimed at our colors, race, and religion. We're fed up if you didn't detect it. We're fully woke and will be respected. The revolution was televised. Now the whole world knows. No more hiding the truth behind closed doors. Be sure you hear us. No need to fear us. Just know when we say every single day, Black Lives Matter. Black lives truly matter. Black lives truly matter. I didn't shoot the sheriff, but the sheriff shot at me. I didn't shoot the deputy. As the world watched, they could see. Systematic racism. I don't care if you wear blue. I said systematic racism. Soon you will be through. You keep killing all my brothers and sisters. Just don't get no rest. You chase them down and shoot them up. Keep taking away our best. No hiding from the videos. And now the world can see what's been happening to my brothers. Justice is what we need. Black lives truly matter. Black lives. shoot the deputy, but the deputy shot at me. I said, systematic racism, you got to set us free. I've identified the problem, and the whole wide world now knows. Rise up today in heaven and earth, 'cause there's no more tragedy shows. My life is not for you to take just because you wear all blue. There's something I must say to you, and the second word is you. I'm looking for some good results for my liberty. I'm looking for some good trouble, the way that things should be. Black lives truly matter. But the deputy shot at me. I said, systematic racism, you got to set us free. I've identified the problem, and the whole wide world now knows. Rise up today in heaven and earth, 'cause there's no more tragedy shows. My life is not for you to take just because you wear all blue. There's something I must say to you, and the second word is you. Now I'm looking for some good results for my liberty. I'm looking for some good trouble, the way that things should
Hello
be.
from New Fernandez. I'm Fernandez. This is Roots World Radio.
All those fathers dying, so many mothers crying, babies wondering why. All they hear is lies. It's really got to change. No more lies rearranged. Peace.
Hi, this is Babz Rawls-Ivy from New Haven, Connecticut, and you're listening to WNHHLP 103.5 FM, streaming live at newhavenindependent.org.
Voy a ponerla cual la pieza más preciada en la mejor sala de mi corazón. Esa negra, por donde quiera que pase, deja la cosa caliente. Esa negra, por donde quiera que pasa, deja la cosa caliente. Esa negra tan bonita, yo la quiero para mí. Esa negra tan bonita, yo la quiero para mí. Aunque me busque problemas cuando la lleve a bailar al cabaret. Esa negra, por donde quiera que pasa, deja la cosa caliente. Esa negra, por donde quiera que pasa, deja la cosa caliente. Esa negra tan bonita, yo la quiero para mí. Aunque me busque problemas cuando la lleve a bailar al cabaret. Esa negra, por donde quiera que pasa, deja la cosa caliente. Esa negra, por donde quiera que pasa, deja la cosa caliente. Dígala como va. Esa negra, por donde quiera que pasa, deja la cosa caliente. Esa negra, por donde quiera